Good evening! So today I'm going to be talking to you about the 5 best books I've read this year. So if you've been following my channel for like a hot minute, you will know what these books are. There is a good chance my long-term subscribers can actually give you an itemised list of what these books will be, because I talk about them that often. However, I thought it'd be a really good idea just to go through them, definitively place them in my list, because I think there will be some surprises about where I've ranked them in my list. This is going to go from like my 5th favourite book of the year straight up to number 1, and I guarantee people will be surprised. Then, if I have time a bit later on, I will do the worst books. If not, I'll do it in a separate video. I'll just see how I go on. So, number 5, which is probably no surprise to anybody, is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Now, I read this at the start of May with Jade from paperback to hardback, and we did this as a buddy read because we just got Good Girl Bad Blood, which is the sequel, and myself, Brooke from Brooks Books, and Jade from paperback to hardback were going to read this as a 3-way buddy read. And Jade and I hadn't actually read book 1, so we decided, let's binge through book 1, then we can all start book 2. I read book 1. I fell in love with this. This is one of the best books I've ever read. It's a YA mystery novel about a young girl who, as part of a school project, decides to look into a murder case that happened 5 years ago in her town. Now, she has a bit of a personal connection to the story. She had not so much a friendship, but she had a fondness for the boy who was accused of committing the murder. And she always remembers that he was nice to her, and it really affected her to find out he had committed such a horrible crime. So she looks into it, and as she starts to look into it, she starts to piece together a few things, realising maybe this guy didn't actually do the murder, as he was suspected of doing. So she looks into it. She then starts getting threats saying, stop looking into this, which makes her look into it more, because obviously that's how it's going to go. And this was just... This turned out to be one of the best stories I've ever read. There were plot twists, there was heartbreaking scenes. If you've read the book, you know the heartbreaking scene. I ain't over it. But this is an absolute must read. Even if you're not really a fan of YA, give this one a good go, because it is absolutely amazing. I cried many a time. I laughed. It was funny. It has mixed media, but I can't find a single mixed media passage now. There's maps in book 2. There's even more. There's stuff like photographs of crime scenes and the court drawings that they do. There's so many of them, and I just really like that format. It was very different. It made it just so easy to read and so fun. And it's just one that needs to be read. If you don't like YA mystery novels, you will still need to read this, because it's just so cute, it's funny, it's heartbreaking, it's tense, it's fantastic. All around, first class book. I also want to give a shout out to Good Girl Bad... I want to give a shout out to Good Girl Bad Blood, which is the sequel to this. Absolutely amazing. Loved it just as much, but I thought... I need to pick one to go on the list. I didn't want them both on the list because I had other books that kind of just trumped them a little bit. And I just thought if I was going to put one of them on, it had to be number 1, didn't it? But I do want to give a shout out to book 2, which was equally as good. So, 4th on the list. What is 4th on the list? 4th on the list is my ebook that I got, and that is In an Instant by Suzanne Redfern. Now, I don't really know how I got a copy of this book. I got an advance copy of it via ebook, but it wasn't through NetGalley or anything like that. I think I just got an email off Amazon hey, read this book for us. It's coming out in a month, so just give it a quick read. So I was like, alright. So I picked it up, and I just... Obviously, I'm going to go and tell you that I loved it. It was a great book. It was so emotional. When I picked it up, the reason I chose this book to read is because it reminded me of The Lovely Bones. I mean, I'd never read that one. Still haven't. Reading it this month, though. But it did. It reminded me so much of The Lovely Bones, because it was about a young girl that passes away in an accident, and she lives on as a spirit and has to deal with the aftermath of what happened to her, deal with how she felt about what happened to her, as well as process all of the things her family were going through. And that was just very Lovely Bones-esque, because I remember watching the film with the Lovely Bones, and the plot just kind of seems quite similar. Obviously different circumstances, but the plot was quite similar. So I thought, all right, I'll give it a go. I might like this. It'll be great. So I checked in, and wow. It was emotional. We got to see parts of her life beforehand, and then afterwards we got to see more of the disaster than I thought. Because what happens, this is not spoilery, it happens fairly early on. Also, it does say in like the blurb, so it's not really spoilery. Her family are going to like a ski lodge, and because it's all snowy and icy, they skid. I think they try and avoid an animal. I don't really know why they skid, but they skid and end up crashing over the side of a barrier, falling off like this cliff. And they're all in a big camper van, so there's quite a few of them. And I thought, right, she's going to die, and then it'll just go on and show how people are dealing with the fact that she has died. No. What happens is that the story continues. After she's dead, it shows her family trying to survive this incident, and her following each member of the family, because some of them wander off to try and get help, some of them wander off to try and find the ones that wandered off to try and get help, and it's just a mess. There are people who are seriously injured and she's trying to care for them. It's dramatic, it's tense, but it was different because following the family straight after that incident, being part of Finn, who's the main character who died, being a part of her experience, knowing she can't do anything to help and she just has to stand and watch, it was different and it was fun. And I cried many a time in this book. I can't recommend it enough. So in an instance, Suzanne Redfern, give it a go. I can't recommend it enough. It is wonderful. I don't know why I don't have a physical copy yet, but I need one. It is wonderful. Give it a go, okay? Go. So, third, I Have the Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry. Now, I was gifted this by Brooke. I decided to give it a go. I don't really know why. I added this to my wish list, and then when the book arrived, I was like, oh, this is really fun. And then I read the back and I was like, that doesn't actually sound as good as I was expecting. And I was like, surely, Connor, surely you read the blurb before you added it to your wish list. And I don't think I did. I think I just saw the cover and was like, ooh, I want it. And when I read the blurb, I was like, oh, I don't think I'm going to like this, and I feel bad because Brooke bought it me and I might not like it. I went through a whole heap of like emotional turmoil over this. It were good. Now, this book follows a couple, one's a doctor, one's a nurse, and they want children, but they can't have children. So they were looking at adopting. Then they find a young child has been brought into the hospital, very malnourished, covered in blood. It's a really upsetting moment, to be perfectly honest. And they decide, right, we are not letting her go into the foster system where we don't know she'll be cared for. There's a good chance she'll be cared for, but we don't know that. So we will take her, we will adopt her. And they do, and for a moment it's precious. But the young girl who they've adopted has a bit of a instant connection with Christopher, who is obviously the dad, and very, very fiercely rejects Hannah, who is the mother. And Christopher tries so hard to try and convince Hannah that things will be okay. Hannah tries hard, and then is the girl called Jamie? I can't even remember now. Janie. I knew it was something. I didn't think it was Jamie, that's why. Hannah tries so hard with Janie, and Janie is just like, no, I don't want you. Go away. And she's actually quite evil, a bit more evil than what I just did. And it was very psychologically twisted. It reminded me very much of the movie Orphan, if anyone's seen that, and I was very interested in that. It turns out it was very different from the movie Orphan, but it did remind me of that. And I was just so entranced because I wanted to know how it ended, because we also had another perspective of, I think she's called Piper, who is the social worker for this family, and it's like a police interview with her, and she's telling them about this awful ending where it was heartbreaking and it ended in bloodshed and stuff like that, and we was just like, oh. So something's going to happen at the end of this book. And it was just, it was trying to figure out what was going to happen, how dramatic it was going to be, and basically piecing together what could happen with this story, because it was very twisted. It's not so much a thriller. This is really important, I need to say, and it's probably one of the reasons I absolutely loved it. It's not a thriller. It's very much a psychological thriller. Like, it's not a case of this is really dramatic, what's going to happen, I hope they keep safe. It's very much, oh my god, I feel like I'm being driven insane, and this character is so psychologically evil. Like, not much physically happens, but mentally it really did just throw me. I was there like, okay. And it's just one of those books that you have to give a go. It is really, really good, and I just can't recommend it enough. It's wonderful. I love it. Give it a go. It's the 3rd best book I've read this year. So, number 2, and this is one a lot of people who watch my channel will probably expect to be number 1. The Host by Stephanie Meyer. I obviously love this book. I don't want to ramble on about this book because anyone that has watched my channel has heard me talk about this book non-stop since I read it in like February. So I don't want to go on too much, but I absolutely love this book. It was so interesting a concept. It was about aliens who have taken over the world and put their souls into human bodies, and the humans are the hosts. And it was kind of a dystopian, because I went into this thinking it was a sci-fi. Turns out it was a bit more of a dystopian than a sci-fi, because it was about surviving this alien attack. And wow, I love this. I thought it was great. And obviously I'm going to mention it because I always will and always do. Anyone that knows why I love this book will know that the social message it brought out for me personally really put this book in my top 10 book list. It hit me so hard. And to be honest, it probably hit me now even harder. Like, I've not even read it since obviously February, but I still felt the message, and it hit me with recent events going on, with the current pandemic, with the awful incidents when it comes to Black Lives Matter. It hit me then, because the message is all about us as humans turning on each other and killing each other, when if we all just came together and actually worked as a community, we could live such fulfilled, prosperous, amazing lives. But instead, we hate each other for no reason. We look in disgust at homeless people. We're scared of different generations because of how we're going to be treated by them. Younger people are scared of older people because they're just seen as scruffy little kids that do nothing. And then older people are scared of younger people because they're thugs that are going to hurt people. And people don't actually work together. They just force each other to be so separated and isolated and alone that it was so easy for the aliens to take over, because there was no defense. No one cared about each other enough to recognize something was wrong. And the only way humans recognized that the aliens were taking over, and it's mentioned in this book, and it hit me and it hurt, because nothing bad was happening in the world. That is how people knew, because there was nothing bad happening. And reading that, it just made me sit and think, what have we come to? I know this is a story, I know it's not real, but the message is so real about how we are all so separate and isolated, and how we hate each other. As much as we love and care for each other as people, there is also that level of hatred for anybody that's different. There's a level of hatred for anybody who opposes your views, and that's what this story is about. The fact that it was so easy for this alien to take over because we weren't united together. I mean, I feel as though that was really just a small part of the book, but that is what I took away from it. This book was really about romance and loving aliens and stuff like that. But that message stuck with me. And I think that's the biggest reason I will constantly keep this book and reread this book whenever I feel the need. And it was just really important at that time. So, on to my number one book. My number one book this year was Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier. Now, this might come as a surprise because I think a lot of people would have expected The Host. However, I think about this book all the time. I can't get it out of my head. I read this a while ago. I think it was in April or May. Well, I'm sure it was April. I don't know. I read it in April or May. And I got an art copy from NetGalley. So, gave it a read. Gave it a review. And I loved it so much. It wasn't so different. I don't really know why I loved it so much, but I really, really did. It was just one of those stories that I read, and now I can't get it out of my head. I think because it was just so different to what I expected from it, it was just really, really interesting and really, really good. Like, the story follows a woman who is out shopping with her son, and then the son gets kidnapped. Then the story goes forward, and it is about this woman dealing with that experience, dealing with the fact that her son has been taken away, and she's struggling. Then she finds out that her husband, who she loves dearly, has been having an affair, and it sends her down a bit of a psychological breakdown where she says, you know what, I have just lost my child. I mean, it was years ago, so I have lost my child. I am not losing what family I have left. And it sends her down a bit of a psychologically twisted path to keep her husband and keep the family she's got. And that is probably one of the reasons I love the story so much, because I didn't know that was part of it. I mean, later when I read the blurb, I found out that was part of it. But if you know me, I like going into books blind because I don't know what to expect then. And it's fun to find out what to expect. And that is one of the reasons I loved it. And then, obviously, I'm going to mention a bit, but I won't mention a lot because it's very much spoiler territory. It kind of took a different dynamic after that. There was different perspectives. It was just interesting. I felt as though in the middle, there was a bit of a lull where nothing happened. But for me, it was okay because I knew something was going to happen. And I just thought, this book is just going to go like this and then go boom. And I was scared because that could have happened at any moment. And then it literally happened at just a random moment. I was just like, oh my God, I did not expect it. And it was so tense and it was so dramatic. And then I have to mention the ending. It's, obviously won't mention spoilers, but it got me. It was hurtful. It was heartbreaking. It was beautiful. I loved every second. I really, really did. And this is a book I also want a physical copy of, and a book I also really want to reread many, many a time. So I can't recommend that book enough. I really, really cannot. So make sure you give that one a go. And that is it. They are my 5 top books of the year so far. I'm definitely going to do a separate video for 5 of the worst books. And I wouldn't be surprised if everyone who's followed my channel will be able to guess what those are as well. So check out for that. I will make sure to do that this week. But this has been my top 5 books of the year. Let me know if any of them were a surprise to you. Let me know how many you guessed. Because whenever I put a video like this up, everyone always comments saying, I knew you was going to say this book. And I just want to know if I surprised anyone by the order that I put them in. So that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you are subscribed and click the bell so you're notified when I post. And give this a thumbs up, please. That'll be fun. And yeah, that's it from me. So I always hate doing the outros. It's so weird. But I post every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and then just intermittently throughout the week if I have anything interesting to post. And until next time, I will see you guys later.